Greetings, Sat Sri Akal, Namaste, Salam, Shalom. This is my son Rohan, and I am Pardeep. First and foremost, thank you so much to the Ignatian Associates, to the Ramos community, Maria, everyone that has made the Peaceful Presence program happen. Um, I just, I'm just very appreciative that during these times we can all come together as a faith community and really shed light on what is important and what is what our community is working towards, and that's ensuring a fair and democratic process and making sure that all of our community is heard and loved. And so I was reflecting on how we gain peaceful presence, and from a Sikhi perspective, and Sikhs have been around. We would say been around for a very long time, but officially a religion for about 500 years, since the time that Guru Nanak uh, really founded the religion and the faith. And we had 10 gurus. The last guru was Guru Gobind Singh, and Guru Gobind Singh, before he passed, said that he would be the last living guru. So he passed on all of the teachings, and the teachings are really informed by Buddhists, Hindus, at that time Muslims, Sikhs, obviously, and just a continuation of sort of the revolutionary thought process of Eastern philosophy and Dharma, and so Sikhi was really formed to bring about an equality and justice, and to be able to weigh our mental sort of philosophical teachings with the practical implications. So we call this meaty beaty. Did you know that?
No.
No? So we call it meaty beaty. And that's the balance of the philosophical and the practical. Meaning that we understand that you have to live an existence here on earth. And as you live this existence here on earth, you have to weigh out all kinds of things such as joy, happiness, and sadness, and grief.
Like all the happy thoughts.
All the happy thoughts, yes. And so Rohan, when Rohan was actually born, was a few months after the Sikh temple shooting where he lost his grandfather. And his name, how we choose names within Sikhi, is that once the child is born, we turn to the picture, or not turn to the page within the Guru Granth Sahib, that last book that Guru Gobind passed on the lineage of Sikhi to, and whatever the first letter of the paragraph is what you name your son or your daughter by. Now the unique thing about Sikhi is that most names within Sikhism have universal gender values. So you wouldn't know by somebody's name whether they were a man or a woman. And so before all of this started to happen, where we started to take on a lot of a social justice feel, Guru Nanak really wanted to make it that men and women had equal standing within Sikhi. That was seen as very revolutionary at the time. But when Rohan was born, Rohan's mom and I were going through a lot of grief. And the grief was really around what had happened on August 5th, where he lost his grandfather to a shooting that happened within the Sikh temple. And we wanted that name because that name embodies healing. Rohan means healing. And when we went to the Gurdwara, the first letter that they turned to was an R. So we thought that it would be divine, that his name would embody healing. And now when he was born, he has always embodied healing. And he's always given us, and this is, for us, our children really are our peaceful presence. So I wanted to invite him out and just kind of talk about the ways that sometimes he finds peaceful presence. And a lot of people know that Sikhs do a lot of meditation, do a lot of reflection, just do a lot of just introspective thinking about ourselves. Because as much as when we think about God and we think about the divine, we think about the relationship to self and this inner being. And so this is one thing that I wanted to teach Rohan, to kind of find whenever he's having, you have bad dreams sometimes you have some bad thoughts. Sometimes you might even do something that's kind of naughty, right? Sometimes, not all the time. And sometimes you meditate, right? And this is part of your ancient sort of teachings. And before you knew kind of what to do, you knew how to meditate. And I asked you a little while ago, what do you meditate on when you do think about things? And you said what?
Happy thoughts.
Happy thoughts. And so I thought that was so profound to say happy thoughts. And why I think that is because sometimes we think about suffering or we think about bad things as saying something bad happened to us, right? But oftentimes we know that something bad happens, something good happens. But the state of being, sometimes your heart, even when something bad happens, you still feel okay, right? Why? Because you know that you're still happy. So when he says happy thoughts, we think about a state of being. We think about even when bad things happen to really good people, we think about we're still in a state of being happy. We're still in a state of contentment, of joy. And so I wanted to kind of share our happy space. Our happy space is in our backyard and in the grass. And I was actually thinking about getting down on the ground and maybe even just kind of meditating with you. But I think we're just kind of sitting here in the back and just enjoying and letting the sun kind of radiate and shine on us.
But we're in the shade.
Yeah, we had to be in the shade because, well, I mean, we're going to be on camera and we didn't want to really, let the sun glare on us so much that they wouldn't be able to see us. So yeah, that's why we're in the shade. So, so we can be in that place. But that's really for and for this peaceful presence program. I think people are just wondering like how can we be peaceful during some times of these contentious times, even during COVID-19, as people are losing their lives and losing their livelihoods. Right? A lot of people are going through a bad time. Some people are dying. Right? A lot of people are dying. A lot of people are getting sick. I think some people are really reflecting and thinking about just creating a world where I think that some things like COVID-19 are a lot less likely to happen. We know that Milwaukee, Wisconsin, some people are not doing well. There's a pandemic within the pandemic. Some people are having to choose from either being homeless or living in abuse. And I think that a lot of times within all of that turmoil, within all of the tragedy, there's always a way to be peacefully present and be in a state of gratitude and happiness. And that is what Sikhi informs me. It informs me and Sikh simply means learner. And a lot of times when the passages are being read or the hymns are being said, they're talking about a connection. And the connection, oftentimes, they say, within other scriptures, they say different words, but within Sikhi, they say Vaheguru. Have you heard somebody say Vaheguru?
A lot.
A lot. So when they say Vaheguru, do you know what that means? When somebody says Vaheguru. So when you say Vaheguru, what you're doing is you're connecting. You're asking to connect. And in Sikhism, we believe that God is omnipresent, omnipotent, and everywhere. So God is obviously outside of you, but then we have to accept that God is also internal, inside of us. And so connecting doesn't just mean to connect to the source outside of us, but to connect inward to our source. And so whenever Rohan is feeling like, or my other children are feeling like they might feel lonely or they might feel alone, and oftentimes kids do say this, where they say, I feel like I'm all alone. I feel like nobody is with me. If we can teach them to meditate on the divine and the energy or the soul, we will let them know that they're actually never alone. They're there. That other part of you is always there. And that part of you, sometimes we call it God, sometimes we call it the consciousness, but we call it the internal source. And so in Sikhi, our goal is to get in touch with both the outside source So there we get in touch with all the plants here, the trees, the grass, the living bugs, to all of the animals, to the air. So we're connected to everything. We can't be without these things. But then there's also something inside of you that you're also trying to connect to. And sometimes we do a better job, and sometimes we don't do a good job. When we don't do a good job, that's called suffering. It means that we're not connected inward. And so if you're connected inward, typically you will live in a state of happiness. And so that's what our Sikhi informs us, to always live in a state of happiness and peace. We thank you so much for listening to us. Rohan, do you want to say anything?
We have different gods.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it all leads up to the same God.
Yeah.
Like for us, it's Nanak,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very right. So, Rohan said that we all have the same gods, or we all have different gods, but lead to the same God. I don't want to say what you just said. But for
Yep.
us, our messenger is Nanak. And for others, their messenger can be who? Jesus?
Yeah.
Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha,
I don't know.
Siddhartha. Yes, you are very right, very wise. How old are you?
7.
7 years old. So he definitely has the spirit of his grandfather and the wisdom of his grandfather. So again, we thank you for listening, and we thank you for putting on this program. God bless everyone. Yeah, and bye-bye.